Welcome to my lab, my computer room, my record collection, my library. At any rate, this is what I do in here, and I've got a little capacitor I made. It gives off a tiny spark. It's not very cool, depending on your outlook. Fooled around with a little Altoid tin and made a flashlight, which I thought was kind of fun to build. It's my first Altoid tin thing, but that's, not what I'm trying to make this video about, although I did make this little half-volt battery that sustained for quite some time, and it's still sustaining a little charge. But what I wanted to talk about was, well, first I wanted to share this too. These little, I can't quite grip it, but these little diodes here that you can get off of circuit boards and such. You can find them in certain things. When light hits this, it generates power, and it's got a P and an N side to it, and what it is silicon crystals on either side that have been bastardized or contaminated with certain metals. So the crystal on this side is contaminated with a certain metal, and the crystal on the other side is contaminated with a certain metal. And so when I hold this up to the light in a voltmeter, such as the fluorescent light up here, I will get a little over a half of a volt off of it. So I thought, why not further bastardize or contaminate either side? So I hooked a copper pipe to this side of the outgoing wire, or whichever side it is. I can't see right now because I don't have my glasses on. But I put copper to one side, and I put a piece of aluminum foil, clipped it onto this side. And when I did that and held it up to the light, I ended up with over a volt on the reading on the multimeter, or the voltmeter, or whatever you want to call it. And that was very interesting. I want to experiment with that more, because when light hits it, it generates electricity. So that's fascinating. You can do that with diodes. I don't know how practical it is, but it's very interesting. But what I was reading a little bit ago was about graphite, and I got some graphite from an old pencil that I used a pocket knife to get the graphite out of, and then here's the positive connection connected to part of the graphite. So I put the graphite on the positive connection, and then first, before I connected, of course, I put the graphite and I wrapped some toilet paper soaked in water around it. And then what I did was I took some aluminum foil and wrapped it around the paper, the wet paper. And so that will be my negative lead, and then the graphite, exposed graphite here, is my positive lead. And so let's show you what just doing that did. I mean, it's just right now at only about 29 to 0.27. But what I was interested in is the basic idea of making a battery that charges by movement. When you walk around, and a lot of talk's been perpetuated out there about these things, a lot of curiosity generated, and this is not a very practical unit, but it's always good to start small and figure out a way to move up. And so that's what I'm doing. So you'll notice that if, let's say I had this under my shoe, for example, right now, just sitting there, and by touching it, apparently it's charged somewhat, or I've rousted the atoms, or whatever, the ions, and whatever's in there. So at any rate, when I hit this, if I do this, you can see that voltage rise. Now you might think that it's the electricity in my hands causing that. So I bought super magnets a while back. So this is cardboard. I'm gonna put cardboard over it, and I'm gonna tap this. And as I tap, you can see, and the harder I tap, the higher it goes. Sorry about the camera angle there. Now I could tap a lot higher. Now we got up to 0.6, and if I tapped really hard, which I have done when I'm not holding the camera, it really rises close to it approaches more of a volt. Right now, again, it's at 0.3 something, so 0.30 something. So what? This is interesting. This is what I sort of do when I'm not. Oh, by the way, anyway, I wanted to show you that in my little lab, office, music room, and well, guitars and such over there and everything else. But I want to show you this too. This is my hydrogen experiment that I had done, and you fill this with water. I use tap water and some pencils again, and with the exposed leads on both sides, the inside and the out, used hot glue around this. And when I used my hand cranked I hacked the old flashlight to turn it into a hand crank generator, and it'll generate about 12 volts or so. And when I crank that up, you get oxygen coming out of one side. You're separating oxygen out of the water, so oxygen will be bubbling up. Not very much does, because the H2O is more hydrogen than oxygen. And you don't want to have the cap on while you're doing this, because hydrogen is very explosive. So, dangerous. It can be, but it can be very useful as well. So on the other side, you got all kinds of hydrogen flying up here. And that was my little, if you wanted, if you can kind of get what I'm trying to say there, that's my little hydrogen oxygen generator. On a small scale, again, it's always important to start small before you invest a lot of time in something that may not work. So always start small, and when something works small, then you know you can use bigger applications for it. So I thought this was something that this was something I felt like sharing, my little lab here. And this is oh, there's Townes Van Zandt up there, one of my heroes, and I got Alfred Tennyson up there, one of my greatest favorite poets, and little thing there, but antenna. But this is where I write you all from. Anybody I talk to that watches this knows this is my computer screen here. TV I turned into a computer screen, or use as a computer screen rather, and here's my hub, and there's my cigarette getting close to burning out. So at any rate, I felt like sharing this.